So next we have Nicki. Now, Nicki is absolute, oh, she's worth her weight in gold. There's no other way of saying it. She helps businesses in a really good, mindful way get paid for what they need to be paid for the work that's been done. And she also helps get robust terms and conditions in place. And that may, I'll leave this to Nicki, but maybe a little bit after the horse has bolted, obviously, in this situation. But Nicki is going to share some tips with us to help us get paid for the work that has been done and help us ensure that we get paid for the work that we are currently doing and do in the future. So thank you, Nicki.
Thank you, Julia. So hi, everybody. Nice to be talking to you all. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about three things. I'm going to talk to you about your terms. I'm then going to talk to you a bit about credit control. That's a horrible thing that we all don't like doing at all. And then a little bit about cash flow forecasting, because those are your three main tools for getting paid. Okay. And really, I'm talking about them in that order because that's the way they should be in the business, really. So, so we're going to start with your terms. Now, it may well be, as Julia has pointed out, some of this might be trying to close the gate after the horse has bolted, as it were. But really, everybody should really have a thorough look through their terms and conditions. If you've got written terms and conditions, make sure you fully understand what's in there, because I'm getting lots of calls from clients who are in, particularly in spaces like events, travel, that sort of thing, who are clearly being asked by the public to cancel the services that they've ordered. And so you really need to fully understand what your cancellation clause has said to those particular clients. So it may well be that you have something in there that suggests that they would lose a deposit if they cancel, which under the current circumstances you might feel is a little bit harsh, but at the same time, if all of your clients come back to you wanting their deposits back, that could bankrupt you. That could have a serious impact on you. So some things to consider: if it is built into your terms that you will offer refunds, you will give refunds, or that you feel that you really ought to on things that have been cancelled because it's a situation that nobody has any control over. Think about asking those clients, instead of cancelling, if they can postpone. And that therefore allows you to keep hold of that money a little bit longer for the operation of your business. Or if they really are insisting on having the money back, is there any way that you can spread that over a number of smaller payments? So don't be frightened to do this. You've seen lots of posts on social media asking, particularly in the arts world, so music and drama, those sort of things, where people are getting refunds on tickets, where they've actually asked the public, actually spare a thought for all these freelancers who won't get paid if you don't, if these shows get cancelled, to spare a thought and maybe consider, if you can afford it, not to request the refund. So don't be frightened to have those conversations with your clients. If you don't have written terms and conditions, you'll need to be trawling through all those email exchanges that you had to see what you were actually agreed to. But there's every likelihood that the subject of cancellation never came up. And if you don't have anything at all, then it is very, very likely that you'll end up having to do what the courts, if you like, would say be socially acceptable or will be the norm. So really think very carefully about that. And for any future work that you do, make sure you have something in there very clear, because at the moment there are still some people out there buying, but I've come across one case already where order was placed on one day, work done the next day, and the third day when the client said, actually, I can't afford to pay you. So where you can, get the money up front and make sure you've given terms in advance of doing any work. So moving on to credit control. So my first thing is do it by phone. We as small business owners have a habit of hiding behind email. You need to do it by phone, but try and keep the emotion out of it. We're all, as George has highlighted and some other speakers, we're running on stress at the moment, and we're fearful of what's happening, and that will come across in our conversations if we're not careful, and could make those sort of calls confrontational. You absolutely have to talk to everybody that owes you money, because that money is important to your business. But in order for you to be able to do the cash flow forecasting, you need to know what the chances, the likelihood it is of them actually being able to pay you at this time. And there will genuinely be people out there who can't, okay? But having that knowledge will allow you to move on to doing the cash flow forecasting. So you want to establish how they're doing, in this current situation, and where they stand with being able to make your payment, so you can make decisions. Agree payment plans if necessary. You know, it's much better for both of you if they can drip feed you little and often, because at the end of all of this, suddenly they're going to have lots and lots of creditors saying to them, I want your money. And that's going to be really difficult to handle as well. So little and often is probably better if they can manage that, and that will help again with your cash flow. And then moving on to that cash flow forecasting. So if you know and have got a good idea, and when those bits of money are coming in, if you've got those payment plans in place, it's time to do an audit on your expenses. So you need to categorize those commitments that you've got going out into essential, useful, and nice to have. And also look at all of those categories and say, are any of those things you're actually tied into? Are you tied into a 12-month mobile phone contract or that sort of thing? Any of those that you're tied into, can you ask for a payment holiday? Okay. And if you are unable to pay, please talk to your suppliers. Don't go silent on them. In the same way that you need that information to make decisions, they need that information too. And don't just stop and cancel your DDs. If you just cancel your DDs, the likelihood is they will try and take payment, and in doing so, it will show as a default on your part, and that will ruin your credit score. And when we all come out the other end of this, we're all going to want those healthy credit scores to help us continue to grow. So talk to your suppliers. If you can, if you need to ask any for payment holidays, that's fine. And again, look at drip feeding them if necessary. But if you have to start shedding any of your commitments and cancelling contracts, do the nice to haves first and work backwards, so that you keep the essential stuff, and look at if you need to find any other source of income. So whether that's looking at what Tory's going to be talking about, I believe, the assistance you can get from the government to help you meet the cost of those essentials and potentially usefuls, because the usefuls are the ones that are going to make sure you stay front and centre of mind, so that when we come out of it, you're the person that people think of first. So that's it really from me. So terms, credit control, cash flow forecasting. So yeah, get on those numbers.
Thank you, Nicki. Absolutely worth its weight in gold. Thank you so much for that.